Sopranos. Your eyes and your ears do not deceive you. Game Addicts Podcast is back on the air with a new episode. The first of 2023. Despite all of our best efforts, there were 2 episodes in 2022 that did not get released on the podcast feed, but were released on YouTube. Now they're up on the podcast feed as like throwback episodes. I am one of your hosts, Brando. You're player 1, if that's what I used to say. And the other guy here is the guy that I started this whole shebang with, this podcast, player 2, Mike.
Hello.
Hello. We are back in the saddle again, as some would say. And so what's been going on? Why have things been so quiet on the Game Addicts podcast front? Why have there have been somewhat inconsistencies, non-consistencies, completely non-existent? And I know, Mike, you've got stuff that you want to kind of update some of the people who have listened to us for a long time. And I've got some stuff, too, as well. But before I let you go, Mike, I just want to say thank you for coming back on to do some more of these shows with me. And I want to thank all the listeners, man, all of the listeners and viewers, however you've ever ingested this podcast, people who have found us, people who stopped listening that might listen again because there's a new episode, people who have been like, man, what's going on with this? I found this. It's a good show. They haven't done anything in a long time. Well, the hope is we're going to get right back into it and release more consistently going forward. Mike has a little story he wants to tell you about what's been going on in his life, and then I will kick in after that. So go ahead. You have the floor, Mike.
All right. So, during our last couple episodes, back in 2000, right?
20, yeah. I believe 20 is when you kind of step back. You said you wanted to step back because you have some personal health stuff kind of going on.
Yeah, so I had really bad sinus problems that allowed there to be pressure on my brain. So it basically made me zombified for a while. Zero emotions. I had no drive to continue doing anything, like anything. So I got surgery done, got sinus passages kind of fixed up, and I gave it a couple years before I came and approached Brando, as we worked together, as we always have. But there for a while, we didn't work together for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when he started working with me again, I approached him and said, "Hey, man, I'm back to normal. My everything's kind of my chemical balance and everything, and it's where I have my drive again. So I'd like to continue if that's all right." And his response was immediately, "Yeah, let's let me get all my stuff ducks in a row, and let's get this bad boy started again."
So when you told me you were wanting to step back with everything going on, I immediately understood because I could tell that you were definitely being affected by what was going on with you, and there was not even a question. It's like, dude, you need to step back and you need to go take care of yourself. However, what I will admit to is knowing, well, now what? What do I do? How do I keep it going? Because I don't want to stop. The big issue with me was at the same time going into 2020, of course, the big world-changing event happened in 2020. We all know what that is. We don't need to sit here and harp on about it. We know exactly what happened to the entire world in 2020. That happened everywhere. And so many people were affected by it in one way or another. So I was affected by it as well. And you know what's funny? You would think that something like that made people want to stay home more and do stuff more at home, that would be the ample opportunity to create content, to sit down and just, man, I got nothing to do but sit here in the house and make content. And let's just say that almost every single aspect of that, making content, making podcasts, making videos, in every aspect, not just for the Game Addicts podcast, but other projects that I was involved with, took a huge backseat to normal life. And that was really depressing for me. So one thing that I have battled with long life is depression. It's in some form or another. And sometimes it rears its head as I just don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what to do with my time. I don't know. I know you've kind of felt it in some way, Mike, with you telling me I don't even know what I'm in the mood for anymore. I just want to go home. And you know what? I'll admit it. There are times that I come home if I'm super into watching, for example, just more recently I told you I was watching this YouTube series. This guy made a huge YouTube series. He's still making it every single week, but I had like 2 or 3 years of back weekly content to catch up on, and I just watched it. I binged it. It's all I wanted to do because I was into it, and it's something that I could put on that would make me happy feels. You know, like it would tickle the right spots. You know, and gaming does that for me as well. But in this, I had a lot of that where if I don't have the right mindset to sit down and create content, it is harder than hell for me to want to do it. And it's immensely more hard for me to do it alone. Because then I end up, I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking to the listeners like they're here with me. And I did several episodes like that where I did deep dives into certain games or franchises or whatever it was. I did FF9 was one that I did, and dived into that game and characters and all that kind of stuff. And I hope you guys have enjoyed some of those, and I've heard some feedback from some of you that did. But what I had this big plan for all the stuff I was going to do to keep it going, and I became my own worst critic because then when I'm in the sort of mindset of blah, man, to sit here and like smack myself in the face, get the energy enough to want to talk by myself to an audience, and then you're talking, and then as you're talking, to not get derailed, to not get thrown off by something you said or realize you made a mistake, stop, go back. It just feels like, and I know you've kind of felt this too in a different way, but like you feel like when you've made a couple mistakes and then you just get in your own head and you're like, well, I'm just not doing anything right on this one, so I'm just going to pack it in and try again some other time. And then that other time never comes because I don't feel confident enough to sit down and do it. And that was a big thing. Could I have gone off and found another co-host? Yes, I could have. I absolutely could have. However, when you decided to step back from the podcast, it was unknown if that was going to be a forever step down or if it was just going to be maybe we'll pick this back up again at some point. And so I didn't really feel like it was the right time or right move to try and just go out and find somebody because no one's going to fill the spot of fucking Mike. No one's going to do that here. You know, this is a show that you and I started back in April of 16.
Yeah.
And we originally started it as like a once a month, maybe twice a month type deal. And then in December of that year, we launched our own feed, our own podcast feed. And we branched out on our own, and we've done really well for ourselves, all things considered. We're a small podcast. We're just two dudes. We're two working class dudes that work for a living. We don't cover video games for a living. We don't get access to early reviews of stuff. They don't send us anything. We buy everything with our own penny to tell you what we think about it, and that's just fine. We're not in the upper echelon of video game podcasts. We're just two dudes. I'm a dad. I got kids right outside this door. You might have heard one of them crying already. That's it. That's how this is going to be. I
didn't hear him. So.
I mean, I'm in my bedroom. I've got my game room has been combined with my living space in the bedroom. I've got my collection here. You see my bed back there, and for the podcast limited, like I have a limited view. You're not seeing my whole bedroom, guys. Like over here's her stuff. Mike can kind of see that stuff because of the way the camera is set up on his end. But for you guys,
everybody see my room because all you see is boxes, storage stuff, like lots of ball. Let's see if I can get it. The glass jars and stuff, because we're kind of transitioning to canning and kind of growing our own food and where we live and stuff. It's just, as you said, I mean, this COVID really kind of affected the whole world. I mean, our work, we're still having issues just working a full day. Still, I mean, 2003, and we can't even get
23.
23.
Yeah. We're not going back in time.
Right. If we could, though.
Well, you know what?
You
If
know
I could go back in time with the stuff I know now,
Yep.
I
2003. I mean,
2003, I definitely invest in Apple.
I just get out. Anywho, um, but so we shifted a lot. I mean, all our priorities have shifted, and I feel like the world is just so bleak, and everybody's so upset. And it feels like nobody can get a foothold on actual happiness. And every time you turn a corner, the TV saying how bad stuff is. You've got the big chemical spill that's going on in is it Ohio or Illinois?
Ohio. Yeah,
Illinois had one a while ago, but it's just like everywhere you turn around, the news isn't saying like guy saves 6-year-old girl from whatever. It's the world's still going to crap. It ain't stopped yet, guys. So
I'm gonna play devil's advocate just a little bit because I feel like while there is still good news out there, it just doesn't get any real big pickup because so many people are addicted to the bad, and that's what sells, and that's what gets ratings. And for constant coverage of bad news, it is there's always been bad news, but we're so interconnected with it that like something like a big thing that happens in one state maybe 25 years ago, it might have got picked up if there was nothing really big going on. But in the meantime, if there was something other big worldly going on, you probably would have heard too much about it. It would have been on page 8 of the newspaper or something.
Right. But nowadays, like you said, that everybody's thriving off negativity, and negativity is everywhere. It's definitely affected. I know me, and because we've discussed it. It's hard to kind of get a pick me up.
Well, it's hard to stay connected what's going on in the world and not try to not let it affect you. And I've been working real hard at that. Getting into the position where I am now, because a large part of another thing that kind of drove me down into a thing of depression was making less money due to said worldwide affected pandemic. I made a lot less money in the last couple of years, and I had to sell some of my own personal collection just to pay bills. And boy, that's a first world problem, sure. However, I'm so glad that I got so into collecting when I did, because some of the stuff that I bought for super cheap, I was able to turn and sell enough to cover stuff. And at the same time, like these games, like some of these games up here, some of this stuff is what has really filled me with happiness, and some of it I had to get rid of. But getting into a point where I can make the money to support the family has been key and point. Some things have taken a backseat to that. Other shows that I was a part of. So here's the update for Game Addicts Podcast. Game Addicts Podcast we'll be back, and we're going to hopefully do kind of an every other week type release schedule. This is the first time that we sat together to record in a while. It took a little while to get the webcams working, the microphones working. We had to
still don't know how they work. I still don't know how any of it was started to work. Just started. But it works.
We got to dust off the old podcast here because we want to get back into it. Because you know what? With all the negativity in the world and how hard it is to just get up every day and go do it, not knowing if the world's going to fall apart again. There's negativity everywhere. But dang it, there's some cool stuff that's coming out, and for entertainment purposes, there is good stuff out there. And if we can be one of those good things to try and do something positive. To try to combat the bad news 30-second news cycle, something bad, something negative every 30 seconds. Well, then okay, we'll try. Gosh darn it, we'll try. So we have a new website, GameAddicts.rocks. That's GameAddicts.rocks. So .com is gone. That's my fault, guys. But GameAddicts.rocks. Check that out. That'll take you to the Podbean website. You can download the podcast everywhere the podcasts pretty much are. If we're not there, reach out, message me on whatever social medias. We're still there at Game Addicts Play. We're on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And now, thanks to Mike, we're on TikTok. You're going to start seeing some of our clips on TikTok.
We're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're not going to just throw up some stuff.
Yep.
I might do some throwbacks to some running across the chairs, um, a car hitting the side of the house,
Something.
whatever. We might throw some of those up, but as of now, there's no videos up, but there will be.
Yeah. This is episode 173, Mike. 173 episodes of this podcast. As I said, our own feed, the show itself started in April of 16. Our own feed started in December of 16. Here we are, March 4th, 2023. Yesterday was the 6-year anniversary, Mike, of the release of the Switch and Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
6 years.
Wow.
So 2017.
I can't believe I've had mine that long.
Yeah, so I picked mine up later on that year, in I think October or no, it came out in October. I got the Mario Odyssey bundle on layaway.
You did,
and then picked it up in December.
I got mine on a shady deal.
I remember that.
It was super shady.
You're the king of the shady deals, man.
Dude. You know what it is? It's Facebook Marketplace. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a dice roll.
Yep.
Is it going to be shady? Is it going to be a legit? And I have to make a shady deal legit, luckily.
I sold my N64 on a Facebook Marketplace. The dude
about
drove
ready
all
to
the way
put a
up
lot
from
of mine
Noblesville. He drove all the way up from Noblesville to meet me in Frankfurt to buy it.
He really wanted your 64.
And I will say that I quadrupled my price on that. I sold them when they were super high.
Yeah.
And this might be a dick move of me, and I'm sorry, guys, if this changes your opinion of me. I did not sell the expansion pack with it. I put the original one back in there, and I kept the expansion pack for myself in case I got another N64 one day.
I mean, it's yours.
It is mine. I can do what I want with it.
It didn't actually launch with the expansion pack, so
I also did not give him the dark gray controller that I got from Goodwill. That's like the best controller that I had for the system. I had the original one that I had with it. I had the crappy one that I got from Goodwill. I didn't give him the crappy one, but I gave him the original controller that's supposed to come with it.
He was getting he wanted an original 64. That's what he got.
You know what? And
that's what I gotta say.
I also sold my in-box, never used Dreamcast controllers. I sold my Dreamcast, I think I sold the Dreamcast. I sold my Dreamcast collection. Do I have any more? No, I think they are all gone. The one reason why I was more than okay getting rid of the Dreamcast is because it's hard to collect for Dreamcast in this area. And the moment that I say that, like literally, it was like 2 weeks ago. I went into Disc Replay and they had a crap ton in there.
You know who has all of it? Tim.
Well, I mean, he's got a lot.
He literally has all. If it comes up and he's in town and he sees it, he buys it. It doesn't matter what it is.
Well, especially for him, Sega Saturn.
Saturn, yep.
Big time for Saturn.
I think he's the biggest one around right now.
Saturn collectors, I would say in our area, probably yes. He's got a shit ton.
Like I said, anytime the Saturn stuff comes up into play, Saturn and it might just be Saturn. I don't know about Dreamcast.
So let's just like what we've been doing, right? This is what we're starting off with. What we've been doing. We already said what we've been doing. You had a physical health problem that you had to go deal with. I had mental problem that I've been dealing with, and part of the thing is that when I started this podcast, I wanted to talk about collecting because I was super into collecting, and I probably started the podcast a little like 2 years too late. Because that's when I did some of my biggest collecting was the first 2 years. Some of those big pickups that I got were not even really covered on this show. I might have covered some of them on the old Journey into Comics podcast. But if you want to check out my report on GameEye, that's what I use to catalog my games. And you should too if you're doing that. It's available on iOS and Android.
Very good.
My biggest collection was the PS1. And it no longer is. So my biggest collection, I had 142 PS1 games at one point, and now I'm at 67.
PS2 or PS1?
PS1. I'm sorry if I said PS2. So PS1 up here, you really can't see it, but it's like a bookshelf, but it's like I had 2 rows, and then it went down here, like almost all the way across. And I got rid of most of it, more than half. Right now, PS3 has 75. I really didn't sell any of my PS3 or 360 stuff because it's still cheap. It's 360. I have 76. So 360 is currently my biggest game total.
I think mine is PS2.
PS2?
I think because all my Game I stuff got washed away when I went from Apple to Samsung.
So, I'm not super into collecting games anymore. I have one N64 game left in my collection. The boxed Mario 64. Still have that. NES, I have very few. Vita, I sold a couple of hitters there. PSP, I sold a couple big hitters there. I still have a lot of games in the collection, but it's all kind of spread out a little bit. Some stuff I did sell. GameCube stuff I sold off. I have a handful of stuff down here still for GameCube. But I mean, that's just the way of the world, man. That's the way it is. And but I'm still buying some stuff. I'm still doing some stuff. I bought some more stuff for the Switch. So I did pre-order the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remaster. I got that from Play.
Right now.
I got that from Play Asia. The American version that was on the Square site sold out in minutes, less than. So since I was able to get a hold of a English copy, it's the Asian copy from Play Asia, I went ahead and I did pick up the rest of the Final Fantasies that I was missing on the Switch. I do have 12. I bought that a couple years back. But I just got in the mail over the last 2 weeks. I got the combo pack of 7 and 8 remastered. I already had 8 digitally on the Switch, but I did not have it physical, so I did get this up. This is the European copy. But it is still in English. And the Switch is region free. I did pick up the physical copy of the FF9 remaster. This is the Asian copy that's still in English. And then this is the US copy of the 10 and 10.2 Switch. So the Final Fantasy collection will be complete on the Switch, other than I think a few outliers. Like I did pick up Crisis Core, but I have that on PS3, or is that PS5 copy?
PS5.
I don't have it up here. It must be out in the living room.
I haven't picked that up yet.
It should be up there, but it's not up there. I don't know where it is. Because PS5 copies, I've got that game. I've got Miles Morales, Resident Evil Village, and Last of Us Part 1. However, there's some other stuff that I bought. The first big one. This little guy. What is this, you guys say? It's being washed out on your camera. This is the Gully Kit Hall Sensing joysticks for the Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Switch. So, to tell the story, I gave my kid, my oldest, Wyatt, he's been on the show before. He's now 7.5. He's going to be 8 in like July. And I gave him my old Switch, and I ended up picking up an OLED last year. And he has been playing my Switch like for the last couple of years. And of course, my Switch has the red Mario limited Joy-Cons that only got released for the Mario Odyssey. They're about ready to release another batch of those for like a bundle for Mario Day, if you want them. However, one of those started to drift real bad. The left stick, the one that makes your character move. Even when you're not touching it, your character's just going to start walking to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So he used some of his savings last year, and he bought his own set of Joy-Cons to replace them. And when I had the money, this Gilla kit, I believe, was $28. It came with these sticks. It came with 2 screwdrivers to get into the sucker. It came with a pair of like grip, what's the forceps, whatever you want to call them?
Yeah, to remove the extremely small ribbons.
Yep. And then one of these little like pick gap things to get into to lift up the sides of the actual Joy-Cons. And it actually came with something that I didn't even order. They included these little like grip caps for the
thumb savers.
Yep, for the thumbs. So I did the work, and I replaced those 2 Joy-Cons last week. and they're working. They're fine. These red Joy-Cons are now back in action, and my white ones have been put up on the shelf for display where the red ones were, and I'm going to continue to use them and try to give more feedback, because it's impossible to tell you what I think about them right now, because I just literally been playing them with them for a couple of days, and I haven't had a lot of time to dive into both of these sticks to make sure that they're working right. So far, once you install them and you have to calibrate them, seem to be doing okay. So that's one of the big things that I picked up for myself. Here's another thing that I picked up for myself. I say that with a little bit of, there might be some animosity in my voice. It's a screen, a brand new screen. Why would I need a new screen, you say? Why?
Somebody got angry.
Somebody might have gotten angry. So, my oldest, I love my kids. Anybody that has kids knows that. And Mike, you always say, that's why I don't have kids. You do have kids. They're just different kids.
Yeah, the ones under my feet right now.
Right, exactly. So, raising kids is not all that different from raising dogs. There are differences, obviously. It's humans, dogs. However, from the point where I've had conversations with dog people, you share a little bit of the same frustrations. Some dogs are really mild-mannered, and some kids are very mild-mannered. My oldest has a tendency to do things out of anger and break stuff, and he doesn't understand. And then afterwards, he immediately regrets it. He has impulse control. So this is his 2DS XL that we bought him for his 5th birthday in 2020. This was the last one on Walmart.com for $100. Now, to get one of these used, it's over $200. It's crazy, because they don't make them anymore. Also, sometime in March of this month, the 3DS and Wii U shops are closing, so wrap that up if you guys haven't done so. So he took this. He got real mad one day and got told to go to his room. I believe my youngest was having like a therapy session, and he was at home. My oldest was at home and wanting to be the center of attention like he always does. And he got told, nope, go to your room. So he went to his room. Instead of playing with his DS and entertaining himself, he took it over his knee and he snapped it in half. And when I came home, I was furious. I don't think I've ever been more mad at my own child, because he knew what he did. And the thing that made me madder is, I don't care. I don't need it anymore. That was his response. You don't appreciate what I'm giving you. Times are different from when me and you were kids.
Yes.
Because I would have gotten capital punishment.
I have a story to transition into.
For this. So basically, when he broke it, he broke the ribbon cable from the screen. It completely snapped it. And there's an audio cable there. Thankfully, the audio cable, you can kind of fix that. You can pull that back and resolder that together. You can fix the audio cable. But the screen cannot. So I got a new screen for it. I also, when he broke it, he snapped several of the plastic pieces that came that are on there. You can't put it back on. So I got a whole new case housing for it. And when it's done, this 5th birthday gift will no longer just be his. It'll be ours. And with the closing of the shops, I will be modding this. So that's another thing that I've gotten into is modding, because I modded my PS Vita. That's something that I don't think I've shown off here on the show. One of my pickups is I got a V2 Vita. Don't judge me. It's a little dusty. Haven't touched it in a little bit.
You should see my green PSP.
All right, so this one is actually a Japanese Vita, because they didn't offer this color scheme in North America, I don't think. But it's red on the back and black on the front. I got this little grip with the buttons. It's not like the cool Hori one that's like super expensive now. It's a kind of another one, but it does the job that you need it to do. So why did I get into modding? Well, when it came time to have me start selling some of my more expensive stuff in my collection in big heavy hitter titles, I thought to myself, and also the retro market is still absolutely outrageous at this moment in time. So there are some games that have gone so high that just 4 years ago were so cheap, and some of them have come down a bit, and others have not. And it seems like they will not come down. So I made the conscious decision to go ahead and I'm not going to mod my original Vita because I might break it. First time doing something, you get a little leery, you know? So I went to the thing and I modded my Vita. You know, come at me, bro. For a long time, I've been nothing but a, you know, play the original game on the original hardware. And that is still king, I feel. That's still the best way to enjoy some of this stuff because that's what it's intended for. However, getting things on a more modern way to enjoy them is another thing. That's one reason why I went ahead and I bought the Final Fantasies on the Switch. Do I need all of them on the Switch? No, I've got them at other places. I've got some of them here on the Vita. I've got some of them. I've got a couple on the PS4. I've got one on here and there, all that stuff. I've got ways to play them. But if you can find a way to ensure that older games are then preserved for the newer generation of stuff to keep these games alive. And there are certain games, classic games, that are not being cared for in that same vein. You know, one of them just got added to the PlayStation Plus this week or last week, Mike. And if you have PS Plus Premium, they've now added Legend of Dragoon on there, and with trophy support and all that kind of stuff. So really cool to see that game getting some love again, because that's one of those like fan favorite games that people are like saying, hey, you need to remaster this or remake this, and Sony just seems to have no interest.
I think they do. They're just kind of I mean, they stepped into the Final Fantasy VII remake, and they're like, you know, hey, this is going really well. So I'm wondering if this is kind of like them. Obviously, they're going to test the waters with 7 because they don't have to do anything. They don't actually have to invest anything other than saying, hey, it'll be here first because this is where it was at originally. So we want to make sure that you get the same experience. But it's also them kind of sitting back and seeing how people like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will bring Dragoon up because, sorry, but Legend of Dragoon would be a blast. With updated graphics, even if you do like the live action combat or the button smashing combat, I guess you could say it, you can make it a little bit more fluid because we all know that Albert's, yes, I said Albert, one of his dances sucks to memorize. Very hard to get the timing right.
So another thing that I did to combat high retro game prices at this point, you know, some purists might be saying Brando's gone over the edge, and you're right, I have gone over the edge. But I'm trying to keep some of this stuff alive. I said playing your games on original hardware is still king. Playing a game that is meant for the PS1 on a PS1 is probably the best way to play it. Playing the games that are on the Game Boy that are meant to be on the Game Boy, it's a better experience than trying to like put them on the Vita, even though you can do it. So what I did to keep my Game Boy Advance alive is I got a flash card. It's called Easy Flash. You can get it on Amazon for like $50. It's not maybe the most fancy one that you can get. It is built a little cheap. I did notice that. And its max capacity that you can put in it is a 32 gigabyte, which is that's more than what you need for this sort of deal. And the Easy Flash comes with 2 different case sizes, cart sizes. So it comes with one that is a standard Game Boy Advance cart size, and then you can also take the board out of that and put it in this. And what is this, Mike? Yeah, I got to show you on a separate.
Yeah, I say.
Okay, so this will let it sit flush with the Game Boy, with the Game Boy Advance slot in a DS.
Yeah. Ooh.
So when you put it in the DS, the cart sticks out like I don't know, like that much or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you know, it won't bother a lot of people, but some people like you put it in your pocket or something. And you like you have this little cartridge sticking out. This allows this to just you can put this in there with all your Game Boy Advance games, boom, slot it in, and just keep it in there. And it sits flush in there, almost kind of like you had that little like cover that you can slide into there to keep dust from getting in there. Very very similar. So I thought that's really cool. Even though I don't have one of those DSs in my collection, I don't really have a use for it. It was really cool to have that as included because some people they like to get those DSs and mod them to make like a bottom screen only Game Boy Advance, like I think they call them Game Boy macros instead of micros, where it's like a much larger handheld version of the Game Boy Advance. So some people like that. However, if you have a Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Advance SP, like I do, I have a Game Boy Advance SP with a real backlit screen, not a frontlit screen, the badass one that you can get. If you have one of these flash carts, you can put Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance ROMs on it. Just throw them on there, and it'll run. Boot it right up. So, especially for games that don't have a way anymore, that are just lost to time, it's a great way to keep that stuff alive. And also, it's a great way to not go out and spend $300 or $100 on a Game Boy Advance cartridge because, Mike, one of the absolute best ways to play some of the Final Fantasies is on the Game Boy Advance. And let's just say that Final Fantasy VI loose cartridge on the Game Boy Advance, Game Eye logs that at $99.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. So it's cool if you got it, but if you're hunting for it, you're paying for it. So, you know, that's kind of stuff I've been into. I modded the Wii U the same way. That was more of a pain in the butt.
That was all you. I wasn't going to do that one. I did the Retro Pie, and I did a couple others, the PSP.
So I tried the Retro Pie, and I didn't like it. I could not get it to work right. And
I had problems with the controller.
I had problems with the internet. I had problems with using a keyboard. There was a lot of stuff on there that, you know, here's the deal. You know, you're more into PC gaming than I am. I have written off PC gaming for two reasons. Number one, sitting here trying to play games for a long period of time, I don't know, it's uncomfortable to me. I get really uncomfortable sitting in this chair, which is a gaming chair, and it's a comfy chair. But I'm a guy that if I'm going to put a gaming session in, it's going to be over 2 hours. I'm going to try to. And have I done it before? Yes. But I will say the most uncomfortable gaming experience of my life was me filming my first playthrough of FF7 Remake in this chair. And I would make sure to get up. Oh, dude, sitting in this position. It doesn't matter what chair it is. Sitting in this position for that long.
I have an old speaker box under my desk, and then I, crank this baby back. Oh yeah, you can really get back on it.
So do you know what's funny? I do the same thing, and it makes it worse. It makes it to where I can't walk.
Oh, for me, it's just I just sit here and right where I'm at. And
I will go to stand up, and my body, my spine, and my sciatic nerve, I limp to the bathroom. So
my left leg gets a little numb, but
so number one. Number two, why I don't get into PC gaming. There's too many options. My ADHD will not allow me to just sit back and enjoy the game. I will sit there and mess with the options as long as there's options. I mess with it more than what I should.
It depends on what you're trying to do, because I totally understand for retro gaming, because depending on what packages you get, or if you try to do them yourself, you do have to calibrate the controller to whatever controller you're using through PC settings. Even though you plug in your 8-bit DOE, it should work just fine. Not the case always with some ROMs. So sometimes you have to put the work in to get all the button mapping done basically. And when you download, let's say every single PS2 game, that's what almost 1,000. You sometimes have to do them for every single game.
So
So it's a pain in the ass.
one of the things that really pissed me off a couple years ago, I downloaded the Moguri mod for FF9, and it made it a fully remastered. It remastered all the backgrounds. It looked great. It even made some of those backgrounds widescreen because those backgrounds are bigger than what the screen actually shows. And for the ones that are not, it still goes back into the regular screen orientation. It is a bit weird because some characters will walk off screen, and if you on your regular resolution, your 4:3 or whatever, they're off screen. Well, they don't. The programmers had them walk off screen and just stand there. So they just stop moving because they're off screen. But with this mod, it's widescreen, so they just stop moving. It's like they've exited stage left, and they're just sitting there waiting for the scene to end. Whatever.
Right.
But the controller, and I have Microsoft. I've got Xbox controllers at the wazoo. I've got a couple of them. And I was sitting there, Bluetooth, with my laptop hooked up to the big TV in the living room, playing this damn thing. And if I had to quit playing for any number of reasons and the controller disconnected, I would have to completely close the game, delete the Bluetooth controller completely, repair it from the beginning like it's a brand new controller, and then it would work.
I hardline.
Well, I can't hardline.
I know a lot of. I know, but where I play in this setup right here, I technically right here I can literally show you. I hardline in. For my Xbox Elite controller, which is getting replaced today, because it has drifting on the left controller as well. But mine is it actually is input, so it's not a drift. It just when I recenter it, like let's say you're using it and you go right because that's where my drift is, and you recenter it, sometimes it'll just on drifting it'll just stay right. Well, this one I can be pressing forward and it'll add the right input, or I can be pressing left and it'll add the right input. It adds input on its own.
Yeah.
So even if the controller physically can't reach the right side, it adds that input in.
Right.
So I've been having trouble because I played Rocket League with my wife's brother, and it's driving me nuts. I would like to, which I haven't been able to find. I would like to get the hollow sticks and put them in this because this is by far my favorite controller I've ever had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's got the grip. I love that it's metal. It's not light duty. It has the extra buttons on the back that I never used, but I have the option to use them. The little paddles. I really like it, but as I looked into the King Kong controller, it has a lot of the stuff I really like about this controller on it. So I went ahead and picked one up. It should be here today for $70. That'll be a review for another time. I still love this controller. I really want to try to make this work.
The bad thing about putting replacement sticks into an Xbox controller is that the stick housings are actually soldered to the board, and so it's going to be a heck of a mod.
I don't think it'll work because with these have a pressure sensitive, so I can turn up the amount of resistance the stick gives me. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to break it open because I'm not going to sell somebody an item that is not up to snuff.
Right.
That's just kind of my personal opinion. Like somebody could tear this apart, use the parts inside of it at their own risk. Outside of that, I personally do not like selling something that is not 100% usable.
Right.
So I will keep this and probably tear it apart. I'm 100% sure that I won't be able to due to, I can literally turn it up. But hey, it'll be a learning experience. We can tear one apart.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to hearing your feedback on your Gully kit. King Kong, you got the King Kong one?
King Kong Pro 2.
Pro 2, so that is the one that will, it will connect to your Switch, connect to your PC. and all that stuff.
Yes, and it has one of the reasons why I bought it. I really like the. I like. I say I really like it. I enjoy the fact that I can get on my Xbox um, accessories app, pull up the controller, and change some settings.
Yeah.
This King Kong has that. That was one of the biggest selling points for me for the Elite, was that specifically, and they have that. So we're gonna give it a shot. I didn't want to spend another 40. Well, I guess it's at its lowest point now. So $119 for another Elite Xbox controller, even though I love mine. But I didn't want to spend that money and then turn around and I've had this for 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I use it heavy. I don't. I game on my PS5 rarely. My wife has commandeered that.
Yeah.
For a new game that come out, and so I'm kind of stuck at the PC. But I get all my Xbox games here because I do the Ultimate. So for me, it's a no-brainer to always have an Xbox controller. Well, I just tried a regular Xbox controller. My PC was like, nah, I don't like that. We're not going to let that one work.
Weird.
So, yeah, I can't get the Bluetooth to work on it. So we'll hope the King Kong one's a plug-in play. So
definitely look forward to hearing what you got to say about that, because I'm going to be continuing to play my Switch to see how those kind of come out. And as we do more episodes, we have things to add on that. We definitely will keep you guys in the loop about what we think of the Gully Kit stuff. Speaking of Hall Effect joysticks, really quick before we move on to some other stuff, one thing that I did not buy, I was going to buy it with the money I got from the tax return, and I did not. I chose not to do it because so many of these are on back order and pre-order that I decided not to do it and then wait however long it's going to take to get. But there is a new controller from Nixie that's NYXI. That is the Nixie Wizard Wireless Joypad. And it basically is a GameCube controller that can be Joy-Cons for your the side for handheld, or you could put them in a little center holder thing, and it feels more like a Wavebird type controller. And
it would be amazing to play this game.
Yeah, it would be, and it's funny that you mentioned that game, because that game has just come out here in February. It was a surprise release. It's a game that we have talked about for many, many, many moons here on the show. Somewhat, maybe one of us have been really impatient about the release.
Who's that?
I don't know. I'm not really too sure which one of us is a bigger Metroid fan than the other. It might be the guy that's got the little art on the wall over there.
In every single T-shirt that's ever been put out, and you got a few things.
So, Metroid Prime Remastered got released digitally. I believe it was early February, and then the physical copy came out on the 22nd of February. In limited runs, they've been in and out of stock in multiple places and selling out instantly.
I was lucky and picked mine up. I had to go to our local GameStop. The
Devil's Playground.
But the one guy that's literally right down the street, he's like, "Bro, we got those in at 11, and they were sold out in minutes." He goes, "The line outside." So, but the one at the mall, they got their shipment at 3:00. Well, it was right after we got off work. So he's like, they literally just got it in. I ran over there, picked up maybe one of the last copies. So I got lucky to pick it up. Couldn't pick up a Sephiroth though.
Oh, the amiibo. Yeah.
He said that. Good luck. They're in very, very short supply.
Yep.
He said they got their original 7 and they've never gotten another one. So I missed my window to pre-order.
So, Metroid Prime Remastered was worked on by Retro Studios.
The original. And
the guys that made the original, they're also the ones that are making Metroid Prime 4, not Retroid.
But they are also doing 2 and 3.
Well, okay, so the rumors are that those 2 ones might not be as detailed as this new remaster. Mike, what do you got to say about this remaster and how it looks? Because they've added about 5 gigs of information, because the original game was about 1 gig on the GameCube. So this remaster has 5 more gigs of information on there to really detail this out. This game looks freaking phenomenal on the Switch.
So I wouldn't say it's Mario Odyssey level. Um, Mario Odyssey is absolutely the best looking game, in my opinion, the best looking game on the Switch. Period. Um, I think it's Mario Kart 8, like graphically, but some of it's amazing. I mean, it looks amazing. They got a lot of the original charm. So when you do your blaster charge up and you shoot it, Samus's face will briefly shine on her visor for you to see it because it's first person. Same thing. All the same charm is there. The game plays phenomenally. Um, it's now that I'm older, and a lot of our games allow us to sprint. It doesn't have a sprint option. It also doesn't have the dash. I can't run. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. A speed booster. There it is. But I love it. I think it looks great. I think that, in my opinion, if four looks just like this without like a super high up res, I'm happy. I think it's one of the best looking games on the Switch right now. Um, the suits look phenomenal. I just got my phase on suit. It looks good. Silver, black, and red. So it's a really good game. The controls are absolutely phenomenal. You can play kind of like your normal newer style aiming, or you can go back to the GameCube where you click the lock on. So it's really nice to have both options at the same time. So you can just hit your L2 button or LZ button, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let me. Yep, LZ button. So with the LZ button, it locks on automatically. So just like you're playing the old, and you have the free aim as well, um, without the weird C stick that all of us remember so very well. It worked for what it was, but yeah, I love it. I honestly, um, for it being a 3D, the first 3D Metroid we've gotten in a long time, it's a remaster, and it's on the Switch. I love it. It runs smooth, no hiccups. They did a absolutely fantastic job. That's all I gotta say. Fantastic job.
So in general, we thought this game probably should have been released like 4 years ago,
Yes.
but it wasn't. That kind of gives me a hint about where we're kind of going along here with our timetable. I think that the release of this game and subsequently the release of 2 and 3 is there just to get people rehyped for what Metroid is. Last year they released, was it last year or late last year, or late year before, I believe it was last year though, Metroid Dread, because I ended up picking that up with my OLED and playing it, and I believe I was a few weeks or a month away from that. It wasn't brand new when I got my OLED, but Metroid Dread reviewed great amongst everybody. It was the first mainline Metroid entry since Fusion, and
2D.
yeah, like the old style, like Metroidvania style of game that was made famous by, of course, the original set, 1, 2, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion. That style of gameplay has not been done for Metroid in a long time. It did make the transition into Prime, and you had a couple of other entries in there that were maybe not as well received, but then, we know Prime 4 is being worked on, potentially the remaster, which has not come out. But then this one kind of came out of nowhere. Dread is the team that did the remake of Metroid 2 on the 3DS, tackled this brand new entry, and they killed it. And
as they said, that the remake of Samus Returns was basically Nintendo testing the water to see, let's see what you guys got. Let's see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very highly reviewed. Everybody, I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. I love it. I played through it, got every item, blah, 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 same thing. but it allowed them to make Dread. And one of the things I like about Dread is it combines a Prime game with a 2D game. So the thing about corruption is when you see Dark Samus, you got to run. You can't fight Sam. You can't fight Dark Samus because she's your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things about Dread is you get into an area, you can't take out the bots a lot of times.
Yeah.
So actually, every time until you get the required item.
Until you get the item that you can actually take them out with, you pretty much have to run away from them. Otherwise, you dodge them. You have that little window where you can dodge them and get out of the way. But they completely killed it with Metroid Dread, and now you got this year with the remaster. Nintendo is the king of taking their time, but
and they do such a good job when they take their time.
Exactly, that's my point. It's like very rarely do they take their time, and you go, "Yes, I'm frustrated about this," and it was a disappointment. That, and in the end, very rarely do you have that. It's very typically when it finally releases whatever it is they're working on, and you're, all right, they're finally coming out with this damn game. 9 times out of 10, it's a hit, and I feel like the same thing is going to happen. They're going to reinvent. Already, people are still lining up to try and find this game, whether or not this was intentional or not. With the physical, did they undersell Metroid's popularity? Because when it comes to popularity, you look at the Nintendo properties, it's nowhere near number one. Like when you got with Pokemon, Mario Kart, and mainline Mario, Zelda games. Man, you're looking at already. You're like number 5 or number 6.
You're looking at lucky. You're number 4.
Yeah, and I would even say number 5, because maybe you bumped up. Maybe you bumped up over the last couple of years. Well, because if you're looking at already Mario Kart, Pokemon, Mario, and Zelda, that's 4 instantly. And
yeah.
So
I'd say 5. Yeah, you're right.
And then you're competing for number 5. You're with the new Kirby game or the new Donkey Kong game. I feel like those games in Metroid are kind of all in the same little like you have your main category of hits, and then you have your subcategory of hits. And Metroid's kind of been stuck in there with this. You have your crowd that loves this game, and it bleeds over sometimes into the mainstream to get some attention and become a success. And so far, they've been killing it with these Metroid entries, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's more to come with it.
Question is that same studio that did the new Dread game, are they secretly working on a fusion?
I don't know.
I haven't heard you've got the recipe. The recipe, they've proven that they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to make it a one-for-one shot. Like, Prime is a one-for-one shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Prime's not a remake; it's a remaster. Whereas Samus Returns was a full-on remake.
Right, you're right. So why don't you do a fusion? I mean, if this studio here doesn't have anything, if they're not doing anything,
mm-hmm.
Fusion is. Everybody loves Fusion. I don't know a whole lot of people. It's unique and quirky in its own way. The ones that you could say that Metroid fans are not super happy with would be the original Samus Returns, but it was on Game Boy.
Right.
And corruption. A lot of people are kind of iffy about corruption. 1, Wii controls.
Yeah, the motion.
That's all I'm going to say. Right. That's all I'm going to say. Motion controls. I remember playing it, and I remember just literally sitting there going, yeah, I'm puking. But one of my favorite games, I stuck it out. It took me 4 or 5 hours to be able to understand how I needed to move, how much to move, because it's just, my God. That's all I'm going to say is my God. Motion controls.
Yeah, so really looking forward to what's coming forward to us from Nintendo. Of course, we have I believe they just re-released a Kirby game, Return to Dreamland. I'm pretty sure that just came out. Either it just came out or it's about to in February. I thought I saw Kirby.
I'm looking through. I'm going back to January.
Nah, maybe it hasn't released yet.
I don't think it has. I think it's upcoming.
Because that's the Wii game, the Return to Dreamland or whatever it was, the Wii game that
the Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Yep.
It is. They announced it on September 13th, and it's out February 24th.
I wanted to say it was right at the end of February.
February 24th.
Same day as Octopath 2 came out. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about release dates, we'll talk about March. Coming out in March, we have the remake. Is it a remake or a new Fatal Frame Mask of Lunar Eclipse? I'm not too familiar with that, but I remember seeing the announcement for it. There's been some attention about this game, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, that came out yesterday. I never even heard about it today.
Yeah, I saw that.
The expansion for Dead Cells Return to Castlevania comes out on March 6th. Looked pretty neat. The next entry for Legend of Heroes, Trails to Azure, comes out March 14th. And then, of course, you have your some of your guilty pleasure sports games, your WWE 2K23, March 17th. Your is Bayonetta coming out this?
Bayonetta Origins is coming out for the Switch on March 17th.
March 17th, same day. You have EA Sports PGA Tour, March 24th. Same day as that is the remake of Resident Evil 4. Buddy, I don't know how much of a more I can say about on the fence for a game that I've ever been, because I remember when 4 got released and I thought it was the best thing ever, and then over the years I felt like maybe it's not. And
it's not.
And maybe it did more harm than good. Like, it revitalized the series when it needed revitalizing, but it took the series down a path that it barely recovered from. And however, everything that I've seen from the remake is like kind of what you wanted it to be in the original, like more spooky, more creep factor. So maybe I'll check it out, man. That's one of the ones that I'm on the fence for, because another game that's coming out in just on March 28th, MLB The Show 23. So I've gotten into playing MLB The Shows. I played 20. I got 20 for a cheap discount, and then I ended up I did not get 21. I'm trying to do like the I'm buying every other year type deal for these games. Because for somebody like we can ask our buddy Will, who I'd love to bring here on the show one day. I'll have to make a purple icon banner for him, because we got red and blue. He tends to get suckered in to buy some of these yearly release games, and then he'll tell you, maybe I shouldn't have bought it. It's fun, but you know. So here's the deal: if they were going to come out with a certain cover star for the MVP edition, I would have bought 23 instantly. It would have been a buy. It would have been a thing, because, man, I got so lucky for buying 22 last year, where they had my boy Shohei on the cover, and they got this like cool freaking anime type.
Yeah, it looks sweet.
And then the steelbook, and this is the PS4 with the PS5 download included, a free upgrade instead of paying the $10. And I absolutely love it. And if they'd have had one from a boy Albert Pujols for Cardinals, I would have been on board. But they did Derek Jeter. No disrespect to Derek Jeter. I'm not buying your copy.
Just straight up, no.
I'm not doing it.
Sorry, buddy.
And WWE, I like it. I bought 22 last year. I like the game for what they did with it. They made a lot of changes, because 20 was a complete train wreck of a game. Train wreck. Maybe that's ill timing with everything that's going on in the world right now, with Ohio and going over in Greece. But no, the analogy stands. It was not a fun experience to play that game, and I got bit by it. And the reason why I'm not buying 23 is not that it doesn't look good. It does. I just don't feel like I played 22 enough to justify jumping right into 23 from the get-go. Maybe that's a game I buy when I can get it and its DLC for $30, like I was doing there for a while.
One thing that I don't like about current, like FIFA, the show, stuff like that, none of their stuff is groundbreaking. All you're buying is a roster change.
In some cases, for sure.
I think that if I was the show or something like that, I would not continue to invest money in something when I can just say, "Hey guys, you got 22. We didn't do any major changes, so $15 you get the new roster."
So, yeah, I would definitely I would love to do that, because some of the big issues with the next MLB game, they're adding in some of the rule changes that have taken into effect last year. They're not adding the ones this year, like the pitch clock and the shift change, not being able to do infield shifts. But the universal DH rule is now in effect. That was not on 22. So if you're playing a game and you've been watching modern baseball, they have now made universal DH, but in the game that's not so. So if you're you could turn it on.
That's something I see. Like it's a major change in the rules of baseball.
Yeah,
but I'm saying like the other ones, like 21 to 22, there was no groundbreaking changes.
Yes,
nothing.
And that's why
nothing changed.
And that's why I'm cool with sitting out every other year.
Right.
Letting them come up with something new. Maybe it was new on 21. Maybe they had something new there. But then you go by, like, if, for example, the 21 and how everything was laid out, the 22 looks exactly the same but with a color swap.
Right.
And then, like, there's some things that are the same, some things that are different. If I set out for a year or two, then come back to it, then you are going to notice some things that have been upgraded or whatever. Things have been changed. Whereas, that's what I'm doing with my pocket instead of what they're doing with their business practice. And it's the same way with a wrestling game. The problem with the wrestling game is that you are, from the moment that you are releasing the game, your roster is outdated. Whether you have character changes, people who are no longer with a company, people who have left, people who have debuted, they have people on this roster that they've revealed who have returned to the company last year that are not on this roster because they weren't there when they were doing the scanning. They weren't there for when they were doing the main development. But could they be added for DLC? Maybe. But odds are you're going to have to wait for the next year. So it's just, that's the downside of buying a wrestling game. Just like you said, roster updates. I wish that they could do a roster update to include people that have arrived, but they won't because for that they have to do a full-on capture for an entrance. They have to do a full-on capture for certain animations for key moves that they do that aren't already in the game. And then you have to do, okay, so this character, he would do this if he were to win a championship, so we have to go and capture they won't actually bring that guy in to capture it. They'll bring somebody else in to act like that dude for capture. But that's more work that they have to do and more money they have to pay people to come in. I get it. But that's
like FIFA.
Yeah.
I mean, what really changes in FIFA other than, so-and-so did really good this year. Last year they sucked. So his AI is going to be better than it was last year.
Yeah.
That's really all you're doing.
Really, I am not a FIFA dude.
I'm not either.
But, so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to go any further into the releases. We're not going to go months and months and months because there's several games that I want to pre-order that don't have a hard release date. I dropped my thing. I messing with something and I dropped it. However, there is a game that does have a release date that is not in March. It is in June. It is in June 22nd. Final Fantasy 16 is actually a thing, and it's actually coming out, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be delayed yet. It still could be.
It doesn't have 15 delays, so you guys are good.
Well, here's the deal.
You don't have the 16-year delay or whatever.
I'm going to be honest with you. I am already more invested into this game than I was into 15 at any point of seeing anything from that game. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's the aesthetic. I'm not sure if it's just the game, the gameplay. Yeah, it does look a little bit more bleak, but maybe it's that before it became 15, it was another game entirely, the 13 Versus or whatever it was. That game was in development for 10 years. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking more forward into trying out FF16. Of course, we just saw some gameplay, like 45-minute gameplay thing that got revealed for that, and I had you watch it before we came on the air, and I'm going to share really quickly what I think of it. There's a lot going on for the eyes to kind of catch up with, for you to be able to follow. I feel like if you're playing it, it's not going to be so bad because you're going to be in it, focusing on what you're doing, less on the the flares. I could definitely see where they are making this whole active combat thing that you're doing. Man, it seems like you're right in the thick of it with all this stuff going on. It looks epic. It feels epic. And I instantly see a similarity with FF7 Remake battle system, but you take away the little stopping, the little like Fallout VATS system where in FF7 you can hit a button and it'll like slow down the movements for you to select items to do, and then you can kind of queue it up and then they'll do it. You can do that with your teammates, kind of have more control of the situation. I didn't see on the FF16 where you can go and you can control your teammates, but
There's no commands or anything like
but what I did see is you can shift different loadouts.
Elemental. It showed, what I understood from it is that you can change elemental affinities.
Mm-hmm.
So you can switch from fire to electricity to
Wind,
ice.
yeah.
Wind. He had an arrow, and then he switched to Phoenix. It was Phoenix. All the moves, he breathes out a flaming wing. Phoenix.
Yep.
But that's what I saw.
But then as you battle, you fill up these meters, and that's your limit break. You can activate it and do some extra damage. The staggering is just like what we did with FF7 Remake. You can kind of, they're staggered, and you can hit them hard when they're staggered to do a damage boost and all that kind of stuff. The whole layout of the battle feels like a more things going on FF7 Remake, and I'm there for it. I like the battle system of FF7 Remake. I thought it was a great implementation, and if that's what we're doing here, of course, it seems like you're mainly controlling Clive, the main character, and you got your little doggy buddy with you, and you can give him some little tidbits to help you out, and the other party members will kind of join in as the story goes along. But I'm already more invested into this game than I was 15 or even 12 when that was coming out. So it's like, I don't know what it is, man. This game, it seems like they've kind of gone back to that old Final Fantasy medieval look, but they've made it more modern, bleak, and I like that. So I'm liking what I've seen so far. I'm really liking the level at which Square is going forward into making the cutscenes make more sense for English viewers, for American viewers, because the Final Fantasy is very Japanese, and it can be a little quirky, which is fine. But like the one thing that could kind of take you out of it is if it gets too quirky and too silly, and then the way that the characters interact feels too Japanese in a way, and that's not a dig on Japanese, but that's a different culture and not what I'm used to. So if I'm
last couple of games have been very much more westernized.
Yeah, and this one definitely with the cutscenes, it flows more like a Western title. So for that, that's another reason for me to feel like I'm on board with this. I don't have it pre-ordered yet, but I'm going to. I think I might. Go ahead.
One thing I say about 15 is that the visuals, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The game views, everything was absolutely phenomenal. I personally wasn't fond of that battle system, especially that you didn't get your experience until you slept.
Yeah.
That was kind of
weird.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But as of visually, man, that game was a good looking game.
The one spot in that little gameplay, we saw the gameplay of Clive taking on, trying to remember her name now. It's like Benedicta or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
So you have this big, huge, epic battle with her. It has two phases, with her by herself, and then her summoning that arrow, Garulda, whatever it is, like the wind summon. She's using a lot of that, and you're Clive. You're switching back and forth from Titan, Phoenix, and whoever, and also the wind one to fight her. And then you beat her, and you have this Gregorian chant, doing the Final Fantasy victory thing. I'm like, that's cool. That's a cool way to do it. All right, that is one thing that playing FF7 Remake, you didn't get the traditional fanfare. You got Barrett yelling it out.
That was amazing. I remember playing it, and then he's like, da, 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 da. I was like, oh, yeah, that's, you know what? I'm fine with that. Because it's freaking Barrett. He's so ridiculous all the time, so over the top and loud. And it's like, for him to do that, you're just like, yep, that fits.
So, overall, what is your interest in the game? Do you think you'll pick it up, or is this going to be something that you're going to wait until you start seeing more feedback from it as we're getting closer, or even after?
I don't think it'll be a D-Day. I don't think I'll get it on drop day. I think I'll wait, see, kind of watch. I'll probably watch 4 or 5 hours of gameplay to kind of say, do I really want to pick this up? 15 really left me salty. So did Biomutant, 2 of the games that I was super excited for. I love the look of Biomutant. I love a lot of the stuff about Biomutant. The gameplay, 0. Sorry, that's just the way it is. You made a game about Kung Fu that Kung Fu is irrelevant in. Why? And then 15, watch the movie first.
Yep. Hey, there you go. If you're a fan of our podcast, you'll remember that whole rant that I had. Now, I was a guy that was going to wait to pick up 15, and I ended up picking it up on day 2. And still got the day 1 edition. Because they were still in my store.
One thing is like the movie is phenomenal. Yeah. Like as a single story, if you take away, like, screw the game and just watch the movie as a movie, phenomenal.
Here's what frustrated me. For the movie, they got a couple of big time actors to play some of the characters. They got Aaron Paul to play the character from the movie. They got Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. She played the Queen. Jamie Cersei Lannister.
It's like, come on.
my brain. It's been a while. All right. Yeah, she played her, and then Sean Bean, who also from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Ned Stark, he played the king, and then you go into the main game, and all those actors are gone, replaced by other actors, and so they didn't spend the money to get these characters or these actors for the roles to make there have parity between the two, and that kind of bugs me a little bit. Maybe that's a small nitpick. And some people aren't bugged by it, but for me, it just kind of took me out of it. As soon as you start the game and these voices are different, you're like, wait, what's going on?
I will say this: they have, from what I understand, I have not picked it up since I actually haven't finished that game at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they have said that they have made the story much more cohesive. Spots where you feel like it should stop and explain stuff, they put in cutscenes in the movie to kind of explain things. So, from my understanding, they've made it significantly better.
Little bit better.
They definitely added more backstory with each individual.
I do need to play it because not only I own 15, I don't own any of the DLC, but if you're on PS Plus on PS5, I believe it's only on PS5 because on PS5 you get a certain collection of PS4 games for you if you're a PS Plus member. You get you get like God of War, Last of Us Remastered, Crash Bandicoot. And one of those is the FF15 Royal Edition. So definitely, I need to give it another shot. I got a little burnt by it by 10 hours in 15, not having watched the movie. If you guys remember, I was a little salty. I'm like, who is the enemy and why are they doing what they're doing? And the characters are talking about the Empire like they know who it is, but they're not taking the time to explain to me, the audience, who it is. That's almost like
Mm-hmm.
Imagine reading Harry Potter, but Harry knows everything. Was okay. Let's go into Harry Potter 2, where he's now familiar with the school and with the wizard world somewhat, right? But he's not going to take the time to, they utilize Harry as this fish out of water type character to be able to explain to you, the reader, this world and how it works and why is this and what's this, and it's all strange, and sometimes they go into detail and other times they don't, but at least that the same amount as the main character does. So that's how it's the same way with the first Matrix movie. When you tag it along with Neo, you know what he knows. He doesn't ever know more than you until maybe you get it. That is one thing weird about going into the second 2 Matrix movies, is that he knows more than you now, but then he still acts like he doesn't at certain points. Whereas it's new information, so but he's supposed to be the Superman, and then he's still kind of acting like he's a fish out of water in some aspects, so it kind of takes me out of it. Not as bad as what I remembered, but it's the same kind of story here, where you have your 4 friends and the prince, right? And it's like, yeah, the Empire, they invaded Niflheim, and like, wait, what did they do that for? It's like, they want the ring, and like the ring to rule them all. Like, no, it's a different one. Did you watch the movie first? I'm like, no. and they're like, well, you should probably watch the movie first before you actually start trying to understand the story.
But the thing is like, when you watch the movie, and it doesn't matter if the Empire acquires the ring or not, because the ring doesn't choose them. It only it chooses certain fucking people to use the darn thing. So it's like, what?
There's aspects about that story that just leave me really confused and wanting more. There are champions of that game that say it's really great, and I don't think it's not good, because I didn't dislike the gameplay. It's a bit weird in times, and they have these weird like.
I love the boss battles; were absolutely phenomenal. The freaking fighting Titan and fighting Leviathan was absolutely phenomenal fights, all the way around.
They went and got sponsorships for Coleman camping gear and cup noodles. Stuff from our real world, stuff that exists in our world. And I'm over here like, well, it's about these four friends, and they're on a journey. Stand by me, just like the beginning of the whole game, and then they're going camping. They're on this big epic journey all together. It's about friendship. I can respect that. It's just the way they went about it was just a bit weird to me. Anyways, FF16, I am probably going to pre-order it, because none of the other games that I really want to get, other than maybe RE4 remake, and I'm on a fence with the Starfields. Oh, I got a Series X, by the way. My wife got me one for Christmas, so I'm all ready to roll with Starfield. When's that coming out? Nobody seems to know.
Bethesda doesn't even know.
But yeah, it does. They haven't made a statement whatsoever. Originally, we thought maybe February, but February has come and gone. So who knows when that game's coming out? Spider-Man 2, that's awesome. That's supposed to be coming out this year. Slated for the fall. We don't have a release date on that. What's another big one that I might be wanting to get? The FF7 Rebirth. So the remake part 2, Rebirth. That game is also supposed to be coming out either late this year or early next year. We don't have a release date on it, which that's fine. That's a little bit further away. But when I'm usually what I do is that when I get my tax return, I look at upcoming games, and I go ahead and pre-order them and get them squared away. That way I don't have to worry about them when the time comes. I got a little bit extra money, and I plan out the games that I'm going to buy for the year. I couldn't do that this year. I literally just, all right, I have 2 that I can actively pre-order. The other stuff isn't up for pre-order yet. Unless I go to GameStop and I'm like, yeah, put $10 on this game. But I haven't done that in a long time. I don't really want to go to a store and pick it up. I just do all my stuff I used to do it on Amazon when you could get, when they had discounts on pre-orders where you could pay $10 less. That was key, man. That was awesome. And then now I've transitioned to using Best Buy because what I'll do, I have a Best Buy card. I'll just pre-order on the Best Buy card. It'll ship and charge that card. And either I pay it off right away or I'll pay it off in a few months, or I'll take the collective balance that hasn't been paid off by the end of the year and then when I get my taxes done at the beginning of the year, and we always get a fair amount back for what we do, I'll just like take that couple $100 that's still on there and just wipe it clean. I've paid off that, and then I'll use that again. Kind of helps keep a line of credit open and keeps me kind of accruing credits. Just keeps that going to where I'm not going to go in there and spend $800 on a new PC, or a new TV, or anything like that, or any new big item. Yeah. It's not what I'm using it for, because I've done that in the past and have gone overboard and not able to control my impulses in that manner. But
I don't buy my stuff from Best Buy, but the new computer components and stuff, maybe I have a problem, maybe not.
One thing that I saw interesting is that they're really, because this has an exclusive window for PS5, they really have made it developed for PS5, with them utilizing the new quirks with the PS5 controller, with the haptic triggers, and using that to give it sense of feel and everything, and the haptic feedback, the different kind of vibration functions I have in the PS5 controller. They're making that like a usable point in the game, instead of making it like a third-party game that's released on everything that doesn't care, So interesting enough. But one console we know that it's not going to be coming on is the Xbox. They don't know if it'll ever come out there. FF7 Remake 1, the first part, has not even seen an Xbox console. It's come out on PC, but it has not released on that console. But Crisis Core did, because it came out on everything. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on. The Microsoft deal, though, Mike, you and me have talked a little bit about this when we have time. Of course, Microsoft, one of the last episodes that we talked about here, I'm not sure if you were on that episode, it might have been somebody else, that we talked about Microsoft acquiring Activision, and it was one of the biggest video game deals to ever go down. And I just saw something the other day, Mike, and I told you about it right when I saw it, that the EU seems to be happy enough with what Microsoft has put forward as a license deal to put Call of Duty on other consoles. They signed a deal with Switch to bring Call of Duty to the Switch same day as Xbox. So PlayStation has not signed the same deal that was offered to Nintendo, and PlayStation has been opposing this deal because they've had an exclusive deal for almost 10 years now for Call of Duty stuff. And now it's seeming like that's going to change. They're saying that it gives Xbox too much of a monopoly on stuff, which is interesting because if you go over to other sections of the world, even like number one Japan, but in EU, PlayStation has like a 70% market share of the things that are sold and bought video game wise over in the EU, and over in Japan it's even probably a bigger percentage, where Xbox has never been able to get a big strong foothold into the Japanese video game market. It seems to be doing better on this one than they have in the past.
PC really helps out.
Yeah.
With them putting everything on PC, it really helps out.
But it just makes an interesting argument where PlayStation is like, like we can't have this. And it's like, yeah, but you already have this much market share, and it's obvious that Microsoft, with what they're proposing, is not like they don't care about keeping it locked tight to their straight up consoles, which is interesting because Starfield will be locked in on console and PC through the Xbox ecosystem. If you have a PC, you can download the Xbox app, you can play it there. But that's where it is still technically exclusive to their ecosystem, whereas PlayStation has no opportunity to get that on their anything. And same with Switch. So, because of that, it seems like the EU is going to be kind of talked into not opposing this acquisition deal, which could lead other actors to follow suit, including the United States government. What do you think? Do you think this is actually going to go through as laid out, and we're going to end up with a bigger Microsoft contingency, with them having bought all of these, first Bethesda, then these smaller developers, and now every developer in the entirety of Activision? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because PlayStation's going to do everything they can to oppose it.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
They've got pockets too. They got pockets to try
They've
and
got pockets,
convince these agents
but I don't
to.
know if they're trying to buy it because if they buy it, then
No, they're not trying to
they're gonna.
buy it. I'm saying that they've got pockets to try and like
Oh
uh
yeah, to oppose it. And
to like try to oppose it and pay like legally. They're
thing
not.
is right now, if the EU is okay with it, that's the biggest roadblock. The fact that they offered it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is coming out everywhere. This isn't just for us. This is coming out everywhere. We're going to keep this deal for X amount of years or forever or whatever the deal is that they're basically saying, hey, you're not just, it's not just here. We're just going to allow it to go everywhere all at the same time. And the EU's like, we're okay with that. PlayStation hasn't accepted that, but the offer's on the table. So
Yeah.
the EU recognizes that and says, well, if they don't want to play ball, that's their own fault.
Right.
We're going to move forward. So if the EU says it, then it comes to the US. And I haven't heard any hiccups. I think the US was just kind of watching the EU. And if they kind of go with it, they might as well follow line. I'm not sure.
It's going to be interesting because the U.S. over the last several years and different battlefields, no pun intended, here have had other monopoly type acquisitions. Disney acquiring whatever, Fox, Disney acquiring Marvel, all the stuff that they've acquired, and all these different business deals that have gone down. What's another big one? Warner Brothers Discovery. That merger
Yeah.
that you had going on. The government and for the United States have not really done a whole lot to oppose these mergers. So on one hand, you can see like, well, here's a track record. They'll probably let it go just like they did the other ones. However, there's also been a little bit of a criticism with certain politicians and maybe some agencies saying, "Hey, we've kind of allowed this other stuff to go on and to create more monopolies than ever before. Maybe now's the time to kind of peel back a little bit and not do that." So would you have the exact opposite kind of be more on the forefront of there being an opposition to, even if EU accepts it? We're going to have to wait and find out a little bit longer, and we will talk about this situation as we go forward. What do I think it's going to happen? I think it'll go through.
That's where I'm at.
I think it will go through. I think it. Sony was just going to have to wear that and do all that. There's been constant rumors about Square being tied to Sony and Sony buying Square or whatever. Square getting.
I haven't seen that officially.
Nothing has been official on this. No, it's all been like in the background.
Something that people need to think about is that Sony and Square have had a very deep connection and relationship for many, many years.
Yep.
And they're always going to play ball with each other because they've helped each other out for so many years.
Yep. Yeah. So
to me, it's still just a partnership. It's not an acquisition.
I think so as well. What could change that is if the Activision Microsoft merger or acquisition does go through. That's when I could see Sony ponying up and possibly welcoming Square into the PlayStation zeitgeist, just like they did with Bungie, where they own Bungie. They're going to let Bungie do its thing and release its stuff wherever it's going to be released. It's not going to be 100% exclusive to Sony, but they're probably going to get exclusive time window stuff for releases and expansions, whatever Bungie's doing with Destiny. That would be my guess. Is that
so far they haven't.
They haven't done that yet, but that's also because I'm thinking of I'm kind of future tripping and thinking of any future stuff that's going to come out for Destiny. Maybe a new title, maybe a new Destiny that does get released.
Well, the Bungie team never wanted to make a Destiny 2. Destiny 2 was really just supposed to be a DLC for Destiny 1. It was
I know.
supposed to just be Destiny, and then they had a 10-year roadmap. They were going to
Right.
go 10 years with this game. And then, they stepped in and said, no, you're releasing another game because we want that money. It's like, yes, okay, we'll just.
And that could be the case here too. Destiny 2 could just have that same kind of roadmap. I, I'm. They may not mess with it at all. But what that does give is, since they now have acquired Bungie, it gives Sony the rights to own the IP of Destiny.
Right.
And Sony's looking at other avenues to put their IP onto to make even more money. Movies, television. We're already seeing that with the Uncharted movie, with the Last of Us series that's on HBO that's been super successful, and then also Amazon is doing a God of War series as well at some point.
I'm interested to see how that one goes.
Same.
Where they start.
Same.
Because you have how many freaking stories to follow?
Yeah, exactly. So like it's going to be interesting to see how that goes out. But now you have an opportunity for them to in their within their window, within their world and universe, they have the ability to through Sony Pictures produce themselves a huge blockbuster Destiny movie.
Oh yeah.
And it could be completely released by themselves. They don't have to share it with anybody. And then all that money comes back to them if it's successful. And then that's going to only boost the video game. It's almost like you do these tie-ins to help boost one thing or another. It's like you get right, because when The Last of Us came out on HBO, the sales of the video games jumped up big time because people wanted to now see what all the fuss is about here. The show came out. They're like, wow, this is neat. Let's go check this out. And that you could have the exact same thing with the God of Wars, with the Destiny stuff, with the Uncharted stuff. The more that you do with the stuff and other mediums and other platforms that is successful, that people like, and that doesn't come out and just shit the bed, all you're doing is garnering more attention on what's currently available. That's where I could see them really focusing on Square. Not that they're gonna. I could see it being very similar to a Bungie deal, where it's like, all right, Square, you already have all these deals with Nintendo and all this stuff's going on over here. You guys can still do that, but we're gonna own it all. Right now, one of the cool things about me not buying MLB The Show 23 is that I can still play it because I have Game Pass, because it's going to come out day one on Game Pass. The last two have come out. So, like, what's that? A PlayStation-made game on Xbox? Yes. Like, PlayStation makes MLB The Show, and in order for them to keep the exclusive contract for them to be able to make it, it is now released on Xbox and on Switch. And I've played it on all three platforms on the last one. And it plays fine on all of them. It's the same game. Okay, the Switch has a few hiccups, but the core gameplay is fine. So if Sony is already okay with having their logo appear on other shit, and they don't really care as long as they're making the money, take that same mindset of, we own the IP of Final Fantasy. That is ours. It goes where we say it goes. If this one, the old games want to be all there on the Switch, that's cool. But guess what we have? The access to. We are going to develop a television show adaptation of Final Fantasy VI. The internet would explode because that game has not been remade. That game has not been touched other than for the Pixel remaster. And for the Game Boy Advance, that game has not been touched, and it is revered by many to be the height of the entire series.
Yep.
And if you come out and said, hey, we're doing a TV series about FF6 with a ensemble cast, with this huge cast of the characters they have, it's made perfect for a TV series. And if done right, with the right people involved, just like you've seen with other with their Last of Us series, with the right people involved, with the right attention, with the right mindset, you can make an absolutely amazing adaptation of a video game. And then you take that attention and you go, guess what, guys? FF6 Pixel Remaster, it's right here on our PlayStation. You can pick it up over there on the Switch. It's all cool and all. You can buy it separately. You can buy it a part of this. Oh, and hey, that was such a success. Maybe we're going to, after we're done with this FF7 remake deal, we're going to remake 6.
Ooh, if they announced that, the internet would fucking freaking.
So you guys saw the show. Now we're going to do a full-on video game. It's other things that you're going to have access to the available to do with the IP rather than just making it 100% exclusive to your console. Anytime you have Sony buying something, you're going to assume somewhat of a level of exclusivity because they already have it with the Final Fantasies anyway. So. Well, I've been holding that in for a little while. I coughed, and thankfully the audience didn't hear it. But that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't have much. That's it.
We are back. Of course, you can check us out on all the podcasting platforms and on YouTube, in which you will see us. You will see clips eventually show up on the TikToks, on social medias. We're on there. We're on the Facebooks, the TikToks, the Twitters, the IGs, the Instagrams. Going to try and be a little bit more active. Trust me, I'm not the best at it. You can check us out on the website, GameAddicts.rocks. I'm going to be working a little bit on the website because there's a picture of some stock picture of a gal sitting there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not us. So I'm going to try and come up with something that's a little bit more us and to fill that picture void. And this is definitely, we're going to, getting our feet wet with this again to try and get our podcasting feet underneath us and do this. We're going to try and do this about every other week. Dude, Saturday mornings works great for me as long as it works great for you, Mike. I feel like
it should, but our work schedule. But
yep.
The great thing is that the second I know my work schedule, you know my work schedule because it's emailed to both of us.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to try and keep to, at this point, a Monday release date, but
unless there's something very important going on.
We will try to do that as well. So what you'll see is we are going to try and have a release schedule of every other week, unless there's late breaking news. And this is a big thing, and then we'll try to cover it as soon as we can and upload it as soon as we possibly can. And that could mean that we don't have an episode. If we have an episode coming out on next Monday, not this coming, but next Monday, but during the week on Tuesday, Sony has this big, hey, surprise thing tomorrow on Wednesday, State of Play, where we're going to be showing up. We're going to be showing off Spider-Man 2 gameplay. Well, guess what? At some point before our normal release, we're probably going to meet up and talk about that and get the episode out. So
we'll try not to talk about too much at work.
Yeah, try not to, but that's just the thing, though. It kind of gives us an idea of what we're going to kind of rehash and talk about here. So we keep the show on somewhat of a rails and not to just tangent for a second, I watched an old episode, Rank 'Em All podcast, which I'm also on. We're currently releasing our Alice in Chains episodes right now. You can check it out at rankemal.rocks. That's where I got the .rocks from. And you can also check that same podcast out on all the same places that you listen to this great podcast, where we listen to, review, and rank music. So I was listening to our latest episode where we talked about the Alice in Chains EPs, Sap and Jar of Flies. Great stuff. That episode is so off the rails. It was never even on the rails. It just, the entire time is off the rails. It's absolutely hilarious. And we're going to try and keep it somewhat on the rails here. So that way we don't talk for 3 hours. Unless we're doing another FF7 review, which the last one we did was 3 hours long.
Just, you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff like that,
yep,
top on our list, it's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you again for joining me here on the episode. It's been great having you back. It's been great sitting down here and doing this just like old times.
Yeah. I'm anxious to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll hit you back up in here in a few weeks. Thank you guys for checking out this episode 173. Doesn't have a title yet, but maybe we'll get her figured out as we go along here. This episode should be coming out. We're back. We're back in the saddle looking.
Play too much of that.
YouTube
copyright. Boom.
Copyright. My very crappy vocal cover of Aerosmith has landed us with the inability to release more episodes. But until that time, again, check us out on all the podcasting platforms and on YouTube and all the other different social media places. Links are down below in the description. Until then, I've been Brando, and he's been Mike. And we will see you on the flip side on that other great episode of the Game X podcast whenever that comes out. Oh, really quick. Really quick. Before I get out of here, I just remembered I'm also part of another podcast, the World Gaming Trade Show with our buddy Jeremy.
Yeah.
I've still been doing that show over there. It's on YouTube. Check that out. We talk about some really cool old games that have been forgotten about, and we try to figure out how to bring them forward and who should be making them. So check that out as well. That show is still going on about monthly. So yeah, almost got out of here without saying that. But until next time, we will see you later. Game on, and all that good stuff. Insert coin. Press start to continue. Save game. I better click memory card in. All right. Save data complete. Later on, fellas.